Video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Game 2 was such a deflating performance. It's weird because I don't even feel like that justly sums up what we saw. I honestly believe that the Cavaliers played well enough to win that game right up until the final few possessions, right? The win probability was off the charts. The win probability had the Cavaliers taking this one home 95+%. There was no chance that the Cavaliers being up 5 would surrender this loss, right? Wrong. The Indiana Pacers stormed back. They managed to stop the Cavaliers from inbounding the basketball multiple times. They made life difficult. They forced Donovan Mitchell into an offensive foul that left them with very little time left to work with on the clock. There were just a lot of different things that went wrong. Down to the last possession of the game for the Indiana Pacers, there was a Tyrese Halliburton just pull-up triple on the likes of Ty Jerome, who had an abysmal game. Ty Jerome had one of the worst playoff performances I may have ever seen, maybe in recent memory, one of the worst that I can remember from an offensive production standpoint. And the shot that Tyrese Halliburton hit over him just kind of put the dot on the I. It was terrible. Just an absolute terrible close to that game. Not anything that the Cavaliers should feel truly down and out about, but at the end of the day, they are now down 2-0. When you look at the history, when you look at what playoff history tells us, teams that have gone down 0-2, the teams that have come back from that deficit have only come back 7.3% of the time, compared to 92.7% of the time the team that leads 2-0 goes on to win this series. There have been 34 teams throughout the history of the NBA that have gone on to win this series after going down 0-2. The last team to actually do that, believe it or not, was these very same Indiana Pacers. He recovered from an 0-2 deficit to defeat the New York Knicks just last year in the Eastern Conference semifinals. It's uncanny. The Indiana Pacers are the real deal. They are legit. You have to give credit where credit is due, and there are a number of things that felt like a perfect storm of events that led to this Cavaliers team losing this game too. Because listen, they had multiple leads in this one. This quite honestly felt like a game that the Cavaliers had every opportunity to win, every opportunity to close out. And whether you want to blame it on tired legs, whether you want to blame it on coaching miscues in terms of the rotations, whether you want to blame it on individual performances like that of Ty Jerome, there are a lot of things that just went wrong. And then right at the end of the game, the Indiana Pacers, much like they have done over the last year or two, they have capitalized. They play a tough physical brand of basketball. They make it really, really difficult to inbound the ball. You saw them do it against Milwaukee. You've already seen them do it a number of times against Cleveland, and it works. They're one of the best teams in the NBA, the entire league, at doing that. So again, credit where credit is due. But it wasn't as if Cleveland didn't make life difficult on themselves. I didn't see too much out of Indiana that made me feel as if this team that they are facing is unbeatable. Yes, the circumstances that people in terms of context of the situation are going to continuously ignore. If you're an outside observer, if you're somebody who is neither a Cavaliers fan nor an Indiana Pacers fan, there is going to be no context added that they are legitimately missing 3 pieces of their playoff rotation, 3 big pieces at that, and DeAndre Hunter, who was acquired midseason for this time of year, right? Not necessarily for this specific matchup, but big part of the rotation nevertheless. One of the best 6 men in basketball, a player that many people believe should be starting at that 3. Maybe he will next year. We'll see. But at the end of the day, you're missing DeAndre Hunter. You are missing Evan Mobley, the best player from a defensive standpoint on your team, the reigning defensive player of the year. That is a big loss in your front court. Big piece of that back line of defense and propping up the backcourt that is, had its had its well-known issues in terms on the defensive end. You're missing Darius Garland, your franchise point guard, somebody who gives you another shot creator out there, another facilitator out there, another guy to straight up just bring the ball up the floor against this very pesky, very, very physical Indiana Pacers team. And you saw it starting in game one, how big of an effect his absence, what the impact of that can be. You're seeing that with Ty Jerome bringing the ball up the court, bringing the ball up the floor, bringing the ball up to half court rather slowly. There were numerous possessions over these last two games where I'm like, Ty, man, you got like half of a second. You maybe have 1 second to get the ball across half court because they're making it so very difficult for him to get it past that point. And again, this is not one of the quickest athletes in the NBA that we're talking about too. This is a guy that is not necessarily reliant on speed and quick twitch ability. So conversely, Darius Garland is heavily missed right now. All of that needs to be contextualized in talking about this 0-2 deficit, but I know it won't. Among NBA fan bases, there's always this misconception that injuries are always an excuse because everybody's dealing with something come the playoffs. And while that to an extent you can understand, there are some injuries that matter more than others. And there are some injuries that frankly guys just can't play through or won't be beneficial to everybody else out there by playing through. And far be it from me to tell Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, or DeAndre Hunter to get your ass out there and suit up. I want them to. I am expecting that at least 1 to 2 of these guys returns on Friday night in game 3. But I'm not in their shoes. I don't know how bad Darius Garland's toe sprain is. I don't know how bad Evan Mobley's ankle injury, his ankle sprain is, though it's been documented that he can barely even put weight on it. He can barely even walk on it. And then DeAndre Hunter with a dislocated thumb on his shooting hand. These are all very real, impactful injuries. And for people to continuously label them soft, it pisses me off to no end. Because one, you're not putting yourself in their shoes. You're just speculating on how bad their injury is. We have this really terrible habit as fans of, hey, this guy, he ain't going through nothing, just walk it off. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily that simple. It is not that easy. No injury is the same. No body responds the same to recovery. And while we want them to be out there, I can't be pissed off at them if they truly don't feel like in their heart of hearts that they are good enough to get out there and play. The toe sprain for Darius Garland, for instance, that's very, very difficult to move on if you are a point guard that is reliant upon your speed. And Darius Garland is one of the quickest, one of the most twitchy, one of the best ball handlers that we have in today's game with his shiftiness. That is no doubt going to impact him. Guys miss tons of time. And while you can say, yeah, there's a difference between missing time during the regular season to nurse this type of injury, clearly, this is one of those injuries that it is a bit more tricky than that. And I think that that's gotten lost. I say all of this to say that there is a lot of context that is being lost and tossed to the wayside in determining how competitive this Cavs team can be moving forward. And again, I will repeat, there have been 34 teams over the course of NBA history that have come back down 0-2. And it happened just last year with this Indiana Pacers team. So I'm very curious to see if Cleveland can replicate a very similar performance and win this series. And that is going to have to be done game by game. And it starts on Friday in game 3 in Indiana, a tough place to play at, mind you. And we don't even know who's going to be on the roster in terms of available bodies. I would hope, I can't assume, but I would hope that one of these guys comes back, maybe 2. I don't think all 3 will be out there, but if we can get 1 or 2 back, my confidence level in the Cavaliers turning this whole thing around goes up, because you just got to win one game at a time. My presumption is that the Cavaliers will win 2 of the next 3, and then Indiana will win game 5, and then Cleveland wins the following 2. I think Indiana will win 1 more of these next possible set of games, but I do believe that Cleveland does have enough. I do believe that they have what it takes to come back and win this series. you just got to get things to go. You got to get things to go a certain way. You got to get a little bit healthier, and you have to get more out of some of your more dependable players. I mean, for God's sakes, Ty Jerome entered the playoffs scorching against the Miami Heat. And I get it. Look, there's a massive gap. There's a massive difference between the likes of the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. But at the end of the day, this is a player that we know can compete at a high level. This is a player that was getting to his spots in both games, but just failing to knock down those shots. He was getting to his floater. He was getting inside at the rim. He has been given the opportunity to knock down some three-point shots, but it's just not working for him. It's to the point where he has just been asinine from an offensive standpoint, and they have completely taken him out of his element. They have made him a very, very unimpactful player outside of some facilitation, right? There have been numerous possessions in which he has managed to get the ball to a big down low, whether that be Evan Mobley at parts of game 1 or Jarrett Allen in game 2. That has been something that has remained, but the scoring punch is just not there. And when you don't have that other creator that you needed, especially being bumped into that starting unit alongside Donovan Mitchell, things are probably just not going to go well for you. And that is what occurred for the large part in game 2 and to a lesser extent game 1. So I expect Ty Jerome to be better if he's going to continue to be played as many minutes as he is. And you can bet your ass that Kenny Atkinson's not going to give up on the guy. He's not going to pull him through a rotation. I do believe that he probably should have been pulled earlier last night. But at the end of the day, you're not going to go away from one of the 3 finalists for Sixth Man of the Year because of 2 games. You just don't do that, especially when you're down so many bodies. So going into Indiana, I think the game plan should be much the same. They look to attack Indiana inside, where they frankly just don't have the size to compete at times. And Jarrett Allen was magnificent during moments of game 2. They continued to feed him, and he would reward them for that. I saw numerous dimes being delivered to Jarrett Allen from the likes of Max Strus, from Donovan Mitchell, from Ty Jerome, etc., etc. Keep feeding the big man. Is it sustainable for Donovan Mitchell to continue to get to the free throw line? I don't believe so. That was the one thing that I felt was not going to be sustainable down the stretch of game 2. And look, he continued to do it. He earned 21 plus free throw attempts. That, though, outside of purely just worrying about whether or not he will actually be able to draw the calls, there's also the consistent worry about whether or not he's going to injure himself trying to do all this, trying to take all this physical contact against a very physical Indiana Pacers team. So no, during the duration of this series, you don't want that to continue to be the trend. But if that is what it takes, Donovan Mitchell's probably going to be more than up to the task. At the end of the day, though, I just don't see this being over. I just don't see it being over, and I hope you guys don't either. I know Indiana Pacers fans, they're chomping at the bit to close this thing out, but I don't see it that way. I do not feel that this team is so far down, that they are just going to be eliminated. I just do not see that happening. I do believe that they will go out there and they will compete, and then they will figure out a way to get this shit done, because I'm just not ready to stop believing that this team is good enough to win a title. It's just been a variety of things, a variety of injuries, a perfect storm, if you will, of shit that has been thrown their way. At the end of the day, they just got to figure it out. And I think that they will. And I think Kenny Atkinson will make do with what he has at the end of the day. It's time to see what this team is made of, though. They are backs against the wall in a way that they haven't quite been this year. And now it's do or die. We'll have to see what each and every single one of these guys is willing to do to bring a victory home. And that's from the top down. Go Cavs.